So one of the ways I like to teach drop is through a game called Tug of War. So there's a couple different ways that we can do this, but again, remember, we have to start shaping the behavior before we can name it. So we can either we're actively engaged right now in a game of tug, right? Nyla is pulling and I'm pulling back. So one of the ways I can get her to disengage is by just making the toy limp. Good. And so she ends up releasing the toy because it's not moving anymore. So I'm going to go back to her. And we're going to make the toy limp again. Good. Take it out and reward her for dropping it by engaging her again. So again, we're playing this engagement, disengagement game.
No.
Good. Get. So I'm using my verbal marker good to mark the moment that she releases the toy from her mouth. Disengaging. Good. And rewarding with engagement the second that she disengages. So basically our puppy is like, how do I get this game to keep going? And the way they do that is by dropping the toy and the game continues. Drop. Good. So the second that she opened her mouth, I named the behavior drop, and we're going to continue on from there. Disengage. Drop. Good. So what is important when we are doing this is drop. Good. Is to not get too over-escalated in our play. You see this is pretty mellow, it's quick little bursts. I don't want her to get really, really out of control because then I might not be able to pull her back and there won't be any learning that happens. So keep that in mind when you're playing. So again, just disengage, toy goes limp. Drop, good. So you keep repeating this, and again, as they get better at the exercise, you can start asking for the drop. Instead, I want to show you another way that we can also teach our dogs to drop, and that's through a food lure. So again, remember, you got to shape the behavior from happening. So what I'm going to do is just take a piece of food, hold it to her nose, drop, good. For her to eat the treat, she has to drop the toy. So she's learning the word associated with the behavior as she's doing it. So what I'm going to try right now, since we had the food lure worked, and you know what I said in the luring video about removing that food from your hand as soon as possible, because she's so food motivated, I'm going to try the lure without any food and see if she doesn't connect the dots. So I'm going to do the same thing, fingers to her face, drop, good. Good girl. Drop, good. So both ways are viable approaches for teaching your puppy drop. Food is working way better with this one. She may even, and so that's the thing, different motivators will get you different behaviors from your dog or puppy at different speeds. So pay attention to the things that your dogs really like because it can help you get stuff from them much faster. Drop. Good. Pick that up really fast. Little smarty pants, Nye. Right? Drop. Good. So I said the word drop. I immediately disengaged her with the toy. Here comes the treat. And that's what she's working for. So you want to apply the same methodology if your puppy steals something in your house. You don't want to get into an argument with them where you're trying to pull the item away from them and they're trying to hold on and protect that item. That's the kind of stuff that can form something called resource guarding, where your puppy will eventually growl, bite, snap at you when you're trying to get something from them. So if your puppy does have something in their mouth that maybe they've stolen, you want to take the same approach where you're going to put a piece of food up to their nose so they drop the item. And you can practice this with things that they're allowed to have and things that they're not allowed to have, just so it's not always a situation where the puppy gets things taken from them. Drop. Good. Come here. So let's pretend that this is something that your puppy has taken. Could be a shoe, could be anything, something that they picked up and stole and now is chewing on. What you're going to want to do is walk up to your puppy, drop. You can see how she immediately disengaged from the item, lifted her head up in anticipation for the food, which is what you want. You don't want a dog or a puppy to be guarding the item that you have. So you're creating good associations with your puppy and you taking things from them. Since this is something she can have, I'm going to give it back to her. Be sure to practice this with items that your puppy is allowed to have, as well as items that they've stolen. The more practice, the better the behavior. So since this is, again, something that Nyla is allowed to have, I'm going to give it back to her, but I'm going to make sure that she gives me some good manners for it first. It's a resource, remember, and we want to use it to influence our puppy's behavior. If you find as you're working with your puppy that you need to go back to luring methods to get the item away from your puppy, do so and just backtrack to make them successful. So you can see I toss the treat aside, I grab the toy that she has, and then again, for good behavior, I'm going to return it to her. So the whole point of this is that our approach makes our puppies feel good. And you can see here, Nyla looks up at me in anticipation of a food reward, and I'm going to mark and reward that. We want our puppies to disengage from whatever they have in their possession in anticipation that we have something better. You're creating a good association about your approach and not a puppy that thinks that you are going to steal something from them, so they in turn need to guard it. So make sure that you create these associations early on in your relationship.